Greetings and salutations. Welcome to Knife Chats with Tobias. Alright, before I start this video, let me tip my hat to William of William's Knife Life. I really do not know how he does it. I have tried and I have failed miserably. Seriously, William, what am I doing wrong? Every time I try to grow a dinosaur, this is what ends up happening. I don't know. They just always die on me. What is it? Am I overwatering? Am I not giving them enough water? What's going on? How come my dinosaurs die all the time? And the worst part about this one is I had already named this Triceratops. It was going to be Sarah the Triceratops. It was going to be a new mascot for the channel. But now all Sarah is a bunch of old white bones. That gives me an idea. Welcome to White Smooth Bone Corner with your co-host, Sarah the Triceratops. And what we'll be doing now is, when you see Sarah, you know you're going to be seeing some white smooth bone. Now, I've been collecting white smooth bone knives for a very long time, and I have a playlist with a bunch of the white smooth bone knives in it, and you will notice within there, most of my white smooth bone knives are by Rough Rider, but I do have quite a few patterns that are not by Rough Rider, and I've got a handful here that I want to show you. But I would also like to take a little bit of time to talk about them. So this is going to be a short series on some of my white smooth bone knives. Now, the last one I showed you was the Frost Choctaw, which was their large toothpick. This was made back in probably the 1980s or 1990s, and it was a Frost Choctaw that was made in Japan. That was the last video I did on them. Really nice etch on the blade there, if you can see it there. In any case, I already did that video, so I will link that at the end of this video. One I want to talk about today is probably going to be the Choctaw. I have shown this one a little bit in the past. I'll probably go over that again. This is also by Frost. This is a Steel Warrior 7-inch stiletto. I got a trapper nut here. This one is in the, what is this, the Iron Horse series, another Frost brand. Got an Ocoee River hobo knife. This is a direct ripoff of the case style of hobo, the one built on a trapper frame. I will go over this one in a little bit of detail in a very soon to be future video. And then I've got a couple Parker Frost knives. This is what is this? This is a mink. This one is actually an Appaloosa bone. It's the closest thing I have to a white smooth bone equal end knife, so I'll be showing that one. This one here is also, I believe, a Parker Frost knife, and this is basically a type of classic SD. I'll be talking about that one in the near future. And that one might be combined with something else too. Maybe I'll show you some of my other classic SDs out there. And then finally I got a pipe tool. This is also by Jim Parker, so Parker Cutlery. And I think this is also made in the 80s or 90s. So that's what we'll be talking about in the near future. Today I think I'm just going to concentrate on this one because it's a pretty cool knife, but I thought I would kind of give you a little bit of a preview going on too. Well, with that said, let's get started. Now, the Choctaw is basically a lockback folding hunter. That's what it is, but it is a Jim Frost design for a lockback folding hunter. And it's a popular pattern for Frost Cutlery fans to collect. I have a few of them. I have mixed emotions about it, mixed feelings about them. And I mentioned that in the earlier video that I have done on this. I have discovered that I like the smaller one more than the bigger one. The bigger one is a later design. They basically just embiggen the whole knife, but it doesn't feel bad when it is embiggened either. So that's pretty cool too. Uh, as you can see here, comes in right at 3 3/4 inches or so. That's, I think, the official size they give it at 3 3/4 inches. And depending on how you hold the knife up onto the ruler, it will come out to 3 3/4 inches. You open it up, you see you got a nice little clip blade there, and comes in right at 6.5 inches long. So not an extremely large blade. As you see here, the blade length overall, I would say, is 2 5/8 of an inch, and then the cutting edge comes in right at well, that's 2 inches, about 2 3/8 of an inch. If you can see there, about 2 3/8 of an inch, maybe 2 1/4 inches for the cutting edge. Got a nice little hollow grind going on with it. See a little bit of a spine up there. Saber grind, I guess you could say that. There is a little bit of a swedge on the top of the blade right here, but then it's flat up here. And you got a nice tip going on with it. It's a nice point, I got to tell you that. And it definitely feels like a hollow ground going on with it. We'll get to the blade etch in a little bit. Typically, when you hold it, it's like so. So you're a little bit far back from the blade, the cutting edge, because you've got about almost a 1/2 inch behind the cutting edge where that bolster bends for your finger to flip in. But yeah, you can definitely cut with it and everything else. But you're going to feel like you want to choke up on it sometimes. And that is my only, that I think is one of the weaker spots of the Choctaw. Yes, you can choke up on it and get that finger up there, and it's safe to do that, but it doesn't feel as comfortable as it could. And that's because of the way the bolster is designed. And I think Jim could have done a little bit better job on designing the bolster, especially when you see the blade closed. This one has a very stiff lock. Most of them do, by the way. This one is also made in Japan because it's an older one. I bought it because I was looking for a white smooth bone Choctaw. This is the first one I found, and I got it at a steal of a deal, so I'm really happy with it. Any case, what you see there, if you see where the blade lines up here, the kick on the blade right there, you got quite a bit of a distance with the bolster coming around, and then you see the tang of it down here. And I think you could either flatten that out or you could round it out. Be a rather complex bend right there, but you could actually do that. You could even round out that tip there if you wanted to. And by doing that, you could create a much more useful forward finger choil on there. But at the same time, and I'm sure the folks who really like this pattern will tell you there's not a problem at all with the finger choil as it is. So this is and you know, would it change dramatically change the look of the knife if you were to do that? Perhaps, and maybe that's why it wouldn't be nearly as aesthetically pleasing when the knife is closed. I always remember, I've said it many a times, what draws a person to a knife most often is the way the knife looks. And most often, when you see the knife, this is the way you're going to see it. And I tell you what, when that knife is closed up like that, it's not a bad looking knife. You got the swoop coming down there. It's like a little roller coaster, a little bit of a bump. And then you got the swoop going up there. And the blade is completely contained in there. It's kind of like a really funky looking canoe. And not a bad little looking knife. And it really is a pretty functional knife. And this one is rock solid, despite being, well, probably close to 30, 40 years old. So, like I said, this was one of the early ones made in Japan. This is back when it was just Frost cutlery. This is pre-Steel Warrior days. Surgical steel still. Yeah, it's still just surgical steel. You can't see it there unless the light hit is just right, but it does say that it was made in Japan right there. Was stamped Japan. And that I picked it up specifically because I was looking for a white smooth bone knife. And I thought, well, you know what? As long as I'm looking for another white smooth bone knife, why not look for a white smooth bone Choctaw? And I tell you, the other thing about it, like I mentioned before, had I not been looking for this, I would not have found this. So, really great combination going on there. Yeah, if you're hearing a cat in the background, that is a cat I'm fostering right now. I'll try and get a picture of her for you. But in any case, that is not the new cat for the channel. I am just fostering a cat for a person because they're in between homes. Moving on to the blade edge, which I'm sure you all saw right there. Kill them all, let God sort them out. And then you've got a skull wearing a beret and a pair of jump wings behind there. And behind there, a knife. Very typical of kind of a blade etch that you see on a lot of Frost knives. And now we know that Frost has been doing that for 40 or 50 years, probably ever since the beginning of time. If Frost was making knives, he was doing this kind of stuff on his knives right from the beginning. And is this something that appeals to me at my current age? No, not really. But I got to tell you, back in 1978, when I had just finished jump school, yeah, that is right there. The skull with the jump wings. You'd often see that with the airborne logo above it. You know, the airborne tab above it, and then death from above underneath of it. A very common thing that. Anybody who just finished jump school, they were looking for a T-shirt like that. So, what I got here's 1978 after finishing jump school. That's what I got. Big old belt with the jump wings on it, and I wore this for quite some time. I even wore it while I was in the Army underneath my BDUs. You know, no one saw it, so it didn't matter. So there you go. Definitely something. So would have appealed to soldiers and also young boys and everything else. Anyone who's thinking, I want to be an airborne ranger or something like that. And also the chairborne strangers who want to think they're somebody important. Death from above. You can see that, perfect mall ninja kind of stuff and everything else. Definitely something that would appeal to the 18-year-old boy in all of us, who's thinking they're going to be John Rambo or something. So... And Jim Frost knew how to do that kind of stuff. And so it's pretty cool on the knife. I was thinking when I first bought the knife, I was going to take and get rid of it. But now I just think it fits in perfectly with the time period that this knife would have been made, which would have been probably sometime in the 1980s or something. You're just not going to find them anymore. So... nice little white smooth bone knife, nice little Choctaw, and nice little piece of history going on there. So it all fits together for me in my collection. Anyway, with that said, let's stick around for some slides. What do you think, Sarah? Is that good enough?
Shouldn't you do that thing with the thing before you do the slideshow?
Okay, one more thing before we get to the slideshow. This is a newer version of the Choctaw. This is one that was made in China. And this is a Steel Warrior version of the Choctaw. And this is the earlier Frost Choctaw from Japan. I thought I would just kind of show them side by side real quick so you can see a little bit of a difference between them. Now, like I mentioned, this is white smooth bone. This is mother of pearl under a layer of acrylic. What I can tell you is the transitions from bone to bolster is really good. You can barely feel the difference. You can't feel the pins in this or anything like that. That's because this is from Japan. This is something that a lot of people talk about with the Frost Japan knives. This one, the pins are pretty good. I can feel the shield, which you're supposed to. And I mean, look, it's all embossed and everything. But the real thing is your nail will definitely catch on the acrylic here sliding into the bolster. Acrylic is something that you should be able to smooth out, so there really should be a smooth transition between the two, but you can definitely feel it the whole way along. Backside is a little better, which was something I complained about with this knife when I first got it. The pearl on the backside looked better. Everything about the backside of the knife was better than the front side. Nickel silver bolsters on this one too, and they're not poorly polished. They look pretty good. So what I wanted to show you though is the difference in the blades between these two knives. The thickness isn't about the belly is about the same. That's what I should say. The belly is about the same, but if you notice the spine here, notice the grind going on here. The blade, the hollow grind of the blade goes much higher up on this one than it does on this one. And this is also still a hollow grind, which is pretty cool. But you notice you have a much longer spine going on here. See the edge there? I'll also show that in the slides. So the blade's a little thicker going on here. You still got a pretty decent edge on it though. This is marked as 440A stainless steel. This is just marked as surgical steel, but it was most likely also 440A even back then with Frost at the time, because like many people say, and when you have them side by side, you can start telling a little bit of a difference. It's in the small details that you feel the difference between the two knives. So yeah, I gotta admit it. When people talk about that, they're not just reminiscing about something that isn't there. The Frost knives from Japan were a better made knife than the ones that you're seeing from China or Pakistan. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad Steel Warrior. For the price that you're paying for this knife, it's not at all a bad price, and it's not a bad knife. The blade is tight as can be. You can see a little bit there. I think the blade is a little thinner, but all in all, both are fairly well made knives. This one seems to have a no, it's about the same on the clip. Actually, this one does have a better curve in that top swedge. It's you can feel a better curve going on there, a little more convex feeling to it than you do on this one. But both are definitely sharp. Both were probably at the 56, 58. But even the blade, even if you were to get rid of the blade edge on there, I think the blade on the older one even looks better. So, any case, just thought I would show those two side by side. Once you close them up, they both definitely have a strong back lock. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, there you have them. 1980s white smooth bone, Japan. Mother of pearl underneath clear acrylic. Current production sometime in the 2010s out of China. Now we can move on to the slides. let me take just a second to thank you once again for dropping by and spending a few minutes here at Knife Chats with the Pious. I really do appreciate it, and I do appreciate any comments that you leave. So please remember to give me that thumbs up, and also don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next episode is up and running. Thanks again for dropping by. Really do appreciate your time here.